People, how you all doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It is Sandra here and I'm back again with another video from Douglas Murray. First time going to be getting into this, but definitely really interested to be educated because I feel like that's what I do whenever I get into Douglas Murray's video. But nonetheless, people, let's just put up our buckles and get right into the video.
Islamic extremism only comes from the Islamic religion and from followers of it. And that is an imported problem for Europe. That's a problem that we've brought in and we're now facing.
You are about to see an epic debate between Douglas Murray and a Muslim politician. The debate is around the issue of mass immigration in the West, an issue that Douglas Murray has been warning about for years. The Muslim politician starts by making certain claims that Douglas Murray will completely demolish. She dodges the actual problem of mass immigration happening in the West right now, but Douglas Murray does not hold back.
Elif, you've been wanting to get in. I also want to make sure that you know that we are going to talk about terrorism as an issue for Europe, and I want to hear you, Elif, and you, Douglas, and then we're going to get on to terrorism.
I mean, first, the emphasis on shared values. I think it's incredibly important. For many of my British, French friends, the entire EU debate was a primarily financial, economic debate. For us, those of us who come from the periphery of Europe, for us it's mainly a debate on shared values and the danger of losing those shared values. And the importance of having a supranational umbrella that brings people from different backgrounds around shared values, to me, is very important. I do not think that nationalism of any kind can be inclusive. And we have to make a difference there between maybe nationalism and patriotism. It is perfectly okay, understandable, and beautiful for us to have emotional attachments to the cultures, lands, families where we come from. But nationalism as an ideology is a very dangerous thing. And again, people coming from Turkey, the Middle East, the Balkans, we have seen the dangers of all of that. With regards to populism, populists are not the reason why we are in this mess. They are there because there has been a mess in the first place. So it is the outcome of democracy in trouble. It is the outcome of a crisis. We do have a crisis that we need to talk about. And I do not think that that crisis can solely be understood by looking at economic or financial inequality. By no means, I'm not belittling, underestimating the importance of economic gaps, but we need to talk about other things as well, particularly emotions, which has been so underestimated in mainstream political theory. But I do believe that this is the age of anxiety, angst, anger. It is perfectly understandable for people to worry whether their children are going to find a job. You know, it's perfectly understandable that the people are worried that, yes, there will be too many refugees and to be worried about terrorism. If we do not allow them to speak their anxiety, to talk about it, if we don't have open spaces and judge them on the basis of their emotions, I think we will be pushing them towards the far right. To me, it's very interesting to see. Okay. Let's go back a few years. We had the Arab Spring, we had the financial crisis. We had the Euro crisis, Brexit, Trump. Many times, including the polls, the experts got things wrong. We need to talk about these things. How is it possible? But where we are right now is many populist demagogues, and I think we need to use this word, they are saying to the people, you know what? These people, the elite, they're always getting it wrong. And you are the pure people. You just need to trust your guts, your instincts. You don't need these intellectuals. Yeah. So the denigration of the intellect, to me, is a very dangerous trend. One more thing I want to add.
No, we've got lots of time, because we must move it on.
Douglas Murray is about to offer a much-needed response in a moment. But let's first highlight something she said. She keeps referring to the idea that people are reacting to the immigration issue in an emotional way and that they are just anxious. This cannot be any further from the truth. The truth is that the public has been silent on this issue for many years because they assumed that all will work out and immigrants will integrate into their culture and politicians will manage the situation well. The unfortunate truth is that politicians have not handled the situation well, and many people are now starting to voice out their concerns.
Well, firstly, let me just say that there is a narrative, we've heard a little bit of it so far, that the publics of Europe are being led astray by talented demagogues. It's possible as well that the publics of Europe have seen a political class fail to get a grasp of very major things or even talk about them, and that the public have noticed facts, and that it's not that there's a meta-narrative that's going around. There are just facts. There are things that we can see with our eyes. There are things that are clear to us which politicians daren't tread on. And I've had this experience throughout my life. I never forget the time, many years ago, I think when France first banned the headscarf. I've told this story before, of a Labour MP in a studio with me discussing the rights and wrongs of this, and spent the whole time with me. An Iranian friend of mine was also there, explaining why we were fascist and Islamophobic and so on for defending the French Republic's verdict on the headscarf. And we came out, and this Labour MP patted me on the back and said, "Never forget, Douglas, we're all with you." And I said, "Well, what was that all about on air?" Which was the more pertinent moment. And he said, "Look, I've got a large Muslim constituency and I can't do anything in this area." And that's what you hear all the time in private. And the politicians, when I say this to them, their eyes go huge. They daren't tread onto this. But there's a very straightforward fact, I'm afraid, on this terrorism thing that has to be confronted. Extremism and violence can come from absolutely any community, pretty much. I mean, even Buddhists, when riled up in certain parts of the world, can become violent. The Quakers, I think, we can't go for, but but pretty much every community. So I accept that. This is not something to be picked up on. But Islamic extremism only comes from the Islamic religion and from followers of it. And that is an imported problem for Europe. That's a problem that we've brought in and we're now facing. Now, none of our politicians, by the way, and there's no great conspiracy about this, nobody expected it. If you'd have said to a politician in the 1990s, in the early years of the 2000s, Europe is going to be racked by blasphemy debates, they'd say, "What are you talking about? When did the Spanish Inquisition return?" And then we all became used to it, that there were certain things you couldn't do that were actually blasphemy in a country like this and were punishable effectively by death, by a death sentence. We all accepted that. And now we're told we have to accept the terrorism. Well, maybe we do have to accept the terrorism as part of our life, but the publics have a right to be looking at the politicians and saying, "Look, this is a problem you brought in." It's not only to be talked about. It's not only to be talked about as a problem, but unless we're willing to do that bit of identifying, to my mind, the gap between what the public can see and what the public know, and what the political class is even willing to whisper, will continue to grow, and that's the gap where you have to worry.
Douglas Murray's anecdote about a politician who publicly criticized him but privately expressed support is a vivid illustration of a broader phenomenon plaguing Western political discourse: the stranglehold of political correctness. This phenomenon, as Murray points out, has ensnared politicians across the spectrum, many of whom recognize the multifaceted challenges posed by mass immigration but remain silent or equivocal due to fears of political backlash or being branded as Islamophobic. The impact of political correctness extends beyond individual politicians. It has permeated media, academia, and public policy discussions, creating an environment where certain opinions, especially those concerning immigration, identity politics, and multiculturalism, are considered beyond the pale. This atmosphere has led to a situation where the public's legitimate concerns about immigration, ranging from economic implications, social cohesion, cultural integration, to security, are often ignored or dismissed. Statistics and studies highlighting the challenges of mass immigration and integration problems are plentiful, yet they often go unheeded in the mainstream discourse. For example, research conducted by the Migration Policy Institute in Europe has shown significant challenges in integrating second-generation immigrants, with disparities in education and employment outcomes persisting. The suppression of debate impedes the development of comprehensive, nuanced policies that address the root causes of the challenges posed by immigration, instead of merely managing their symptoms. Prominent intellectuals and commentators, like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, have also criticized the stifling effect of political correctness on public discourse. They argue that it prevents society from grappling with complex issues in an honest and productive manner, ultimately undermining the principles of free speech and open inquiry that are foundational to Western democracy.
Okay, so we did get into that. Quite informative, I would say. So I have no issues with legal immigrants. If Douglas Murray has issues with legal immigrants, that just means, okay, yeah, something we do not agree on. So I have no issues with legal immigrants. Like the issue that happened quite recently in the UK, I think, yes, in the UK, where a group of people decided to go into the streets to violently protest about immigration, about immigrants taking their jobs, immigrants taking over the country, and in my opinion, that is all BS. Okay, I'm sorry if anyone feels offended, but in my opinion, if that was being addressed to legal immigrants, that is BS. Because if they are legal, trust me, the government is aware of their presence there, and the government allowed them into the country, and before the government allowed them into the country, they must have gone through assessments. Okay, let me say this and say this now. If someone is legal in the country, trust me, that person has so much to offer to that country's economy. Okay, and that person is not taking anything from you, because if you were in that position, you should have taken it before the person was outsourced, or before the position was outsourced. Okay, so if any of that is being addressed to legal immigrants, in my opinion, is BS, because the world is going to go around. And trust me, in as much as there's a massive immigration into the United Kingdom, there is a massive immigration outside of the United Kingdom to other countries that is not America. Okay, now let us say we're speaking about like the illegal immigrant. Of course I am against that, because that is going to affect the country in every way. Let me even say this: if an illegal immigrant is migrating from their country to, let's say, the UK because of financial issues, or because they want financial improvement or whatsoever, trust me, you doing that, you being there illegally, would actually affect the country's economy, which in turn would affect the financial preservation that you're possibly looking for. Okay, so there's something I go by, right? Too much of everything is not good. I feel like it's because of how very free the UK is that people like immigrants are, having the leverage, or even having the audacity to request for things that are not already implemented in the country. Because you would never see an immigrant going into like another, let's say, a Muslim country and demanding things. You would never even see that, because they know that there are consequences for such actions, and before going in there, they would lay out their rules. This is how we do it. This is how. So if this is okay with you, then you come. Okay, so because of how very liberal the UK is, the UK's culture, the UK's way of life is, you see these people, they're making so much demands that are seeming quite unrealistic and just very ambitious, in my opinion. So I basically, that's all I have to say. But on the side notes, very irrelevant, I did like the lady's accent. I loved the way she spoke. I don't know, she has one of those voices where you just gotta listen to her. That is a side note, but I just needed to mention that. But thank you all so much for joining me. Please do share your thoughts, your opinions down in the comment box. I'm really gonna appreciate you guys. I already know how we do it. Thank you so much. Please do also give this video a big thumbs up, because it genuinely helps my video, and hit that subscribe button if you do enjoy videos as such. I'm really gonna appreciate it. But upon to the very next one, people, let's keep on staying safe and healthy. Bye.